So you want to learn how to lurk. The idea of outplaying your opponents with mind games, shooting them in the back of the head, and being an absolute rat is appealing to you, but you're not sure where to start. You don't know the best way to do it, what you're actually trying to achieve by lurking, and how to best serve your team. Well, this is the video for you. First, we're going to break down a little bit about lurking, the best agents for lurking, the best things that you can do whilst lurking, and then we're going to look at one of the best, Les from Loud, and how Les's lurking helped Loud win against Optic in the Champions Upper Bracket Final. Let's get into it. Title slide. I don't know why this is here. Skip it. All right. So what actually is lurking? Lurking refers to an attacker's side strategy that involves playing normally one player away from the team, generally on the opposite side of the map. But that means you can also go mid. You don't have to be all the way on the other opposite edge. Certain characters are better at playing a lurk through mid, usually sentinels, because they can watch their own back at the same time. Don't get this mixed up with flanking, which is kind of like the sibling of lurking. It's kind of like lurking on the defender sided, and they share some crossover, but ultimately the best agents for lurking aren't going to be the best agents for flanking sometimes. And the playstyle for flanking and timings can all be quite different. So there's two main categories of lurking. We're going to go into some detail about that. The first is making yourself known, commanding respect from your opponents, and forcing resource usage out of your opponents. Notice how I didn't specify util usage. Resource is anything that you can use in the game to spend or get advantage of. That includes drawing agents away from the main hit and agent positioning. The second is very, very sneaky, avoiding detection, infiltrating, and collapsing on your opponents. So why should you lurk? Now, running it down 5-man can be fun and it can be effective, but it's not always going to work. And that's where lurking comes in. So there's some obvious benefits to lurking. You get greater map control to start with. The team is naturally more spread out. Even if you're a tight 4 and a 1, you're still getting double the amount of information that you would be otherwise. This can lead to safer rotations and routes if you get hard stuck trying to push a site. Infiltration. Now you can win rounds and games easily off of your own back using infiltrative methods. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get up as close as possible behind the enemy's rotation to maximize the timing that you have to catch them off guard, and you can get into their spawn, get right in behind them, do all these kinds of things. Pinch scenarios where you're pinching in behind the enemy as your team's hitting side at the same time, or maybe using that information that you're coming in behind them, your team rotates out and you sit in this really ratty off angle position where you're going to get a free pick or two and then rotate to regroup back with your team on the other side that you've just come from. You can see here I've written this idea about safe space. Safe space is a term that I don't know if anyone else uses. It's just the way that I like to think of the area that you currently have map control and that you feel free to just run through, knife out. That is effectively what safe space is. So if you can create a false sense of safe space for your opponents, that is an amazing advantage that you can have. Coming to our third point, information. So I kind of mentioned in the 2 points above, getting some information just by being on a lurk. This can come in two forms. So passive information, where your understanding of your safe space is just something that's sort of there, and knowing that, you know, one person is on site or two people are on site or things like that. That's passive information that, you know, you can act on, but as a team, it's more just recognizing and then making a decision based on that information. But you can also get what I like to call active information, where you're hearing footsteps moving, and that's something that's happening in the moment that you can immediately react to. You hear Killjoy recall her utility as she rotates to the other side, or her util goes down. That's something that you can react to. And of course, because of all the things, it allows you to have a more reactive playstyle that's flexible and more adaptive to whatever's happening, especially in the mid round. Because of the safe space and because of the information, you're able to make more well-informed decisions that oftentimes are going to be better decisions. Information is such an overlooked aspect of Valorant, I think, and the way that you can acquire information allows you to take space, which allows you to win the match. All Valorant is effectively, how do you manipulate the space on the map to gain an advantage? All right, so what actually makes players great lurkers? Well, It's what a lot of people would just sort of lazily label as game sense. That's a pretty broad term, and I think it comes down specifically to some aspects of game sense, which is like macro spatial awareness of where things are on the map in terms of like understanding pressure points. So if your team's attacking A, you're pressuring A, that's a pressure point, and getting used to and recognizing timings of your opponents. At pro level, this is something that you can really study. At a ranked level, individual, 5-stack level, whatever you want to call it, where you don't have any prep on your opponents, that's something that has to come intuitively and that you can develop throughout the game. And using all of these things to condition your opponents, lure them into false senses of security, adapt the way that you're playing to the way that they're adapting to you, and always trying to remain one step ahead. The most powerful version of this is creating disinformation for your opponents, where they're acting off of information that is not correct. I've created 4 categories of util that I think make the best lurking agents. So that's escapability, trip denial, global utility, and late round clutch utility. And we're just going to touch on a couple of these. So obviously escapability is the ability to get yourself into dangerous situations and get out without being traded or punished for that. So that risk taking. Yoru's gate crash is one of the absolute best. A lot of people will use it to get into enemy lines as an infiltration thing, but because it has such a long usage time and you can continue maneuvering whilst it's sitting back in your own spawn, allows you to really create a lot of pressure and get out at any time. The only thing is, of course, it's not the fastest TP in the game, so you can be shot while you're TPing. Chamber's rendezvous is obviously something that's super duper strong. It is limited by its own anchor, and Jet's dash was the best in the game pre-nerf and prior to Chamber as well. And then of course, Omen's Shadow Step and Reyna's Dismiss are much more constricted in the way that they can be used, but it's still helpful depending on circumstances. Trip Denial, this comes down to pretty much every smoke or wall smoke in the game. So including Phoenix and Neon, all that kind of stuff, they can all be used as Trip Denial. All Trip Denial is the ability to prevent line of sight between yourself and the trip. So think KJ Turret or Chambers trademark, you can put a smoke over those things in case you didn't know this and walk past them and they won't detect you, because they don't just detect proximity presence, they detect you via line of sight. Now, obviously, Chambers trip is different to this. It's on contact. If you're aware enough, you can actually teleport past chamber trips, trademarks, alarm bots, Killjoy turret in the right scenario. So that's obviously a great way to do it as well. And this really feeds into the whole disinformation aspect, because the enemy thinks that they have safe space that you've actually infiltrated and is no longer safe for them. One of the things that you lose from having a lurk player is utility that's helping you with your main hit. This is why having global utility is a really important aspect of being a lurker. So global smokes such as Astra and Omen smokes, Brimstone in scenarios where he can smoke within range, but Brimstone has a much shorter range. Viper's wall smoke is there. You can preset it, but it's obviously not global at any time, so it's kind of at the end of the list. And then, of course, you have trips that you can set and forget. Killjoys isn't in this global utility, but it is helpful in like watching your own back and if you're able to watch your teams. And we're going to see how that plays out and why Killjoy becomes so strong on Ascent, because you kind of watch your own back while you're watching your team's back, while you're creating pressure. And it's just really, really nice the way that Les plays out all of that. And then I think one thing that's also really important is late round clutch utility. Now, I've just listed alts here because alts can have really big impact, so it's really obvious to list them. To break these down, and you can maybe write in the comments about which other abilities you think fit into this category. But the things that help you in the clutch are flank watching and information. Obviously, flashing and dueling and that kind of stuff is helpful, but in a 1v1, it's more often helpful, I think, to just have as much information as possible. So these all kind of fit into that information category in some way. Viper's Pit fits into that information way in a kind of opposite way, is that it's like information denial. It's so hard to gain information in a Viper's Pit. They could be anywhere in the pit at any point. They could jump out of the pit at any point. And it's just one huge smoke that you have to play against. Yoru, you can use this a couple of different ways. Obviously, you can pick up Spike if it's down and get out, go to the other side. You can use it to just gain information when they're trying to retake, enter onto site. Omen TP for the same thing. It allows you to gain information, also allows quick rotates. You can pick up the Spike with it. If your team dies with the Spike and you end up getting onto the opposite site. Cypher's ult, I think, is one of the strongest tools in the game, and I think it's so misused and underrepresented. The fact that you have to get a body is obviously a huge downside to it. Right? I get that, but it's only 6. And the fact that if you're on a lurk and you pick up one and your team is communicated and can rotate, you can see where everyone is on the map and make such a well-informed decision that it can win you rounds. And then I've just listed Killjoy's whole bag of utility because I think Killjoy is the best agent to have in a clutch on the attacker side. You can set yourself up with 2 bits of information gathering utility and 2 bits of stall in just her regular kit. Then you also have your ult, which either forces your opponents to run in and try and make something happen in a rush, or saves you a lot of time. You can also use your nano swarms as post-plant denial mollies, and you can just play around with so much information, so much stall with Killjoy that if you like playing in the post-plant, Killjoy is someone that I absolutely recommend. Just to tie that back to lurking for a second in case you got lost, the way that you can infiltrate with Killjoy, get onto a site, your team comes around to rotate in behind you after you get the pick or whatever it is. If the enemy team rotates off, it allows you to have time to set up all of your stuff, and then you effectively are just playing a site defense with all of your utility. And you guys know how hard it is to push against the Killjoy. All right, enough bloody yabbering on, Stacky. Let's get in and check out some pro gameplay and show how all of this theory can be put into practice. We have Less on attack versus Loud in the upper bracket grand final at Champions 2022 that happened, oh God, over a month ago now, I think. And so here we are in round 1. As you can see, we're a few seconds into the round already, and what we have is an A split coming on where Jet and KO have gone up through Market, and Sova and Omen are going to be coming through, and then Less has his turret watching all of this, and then he's actually watching the backs of his teammates. So we're going to get into the round, and we're just going to have this split come on, and the fights happen and the trades come out, and Loud actually do really well because they've got a split attack. I think is a really strong tool that obviously works really well a lot of the time. But as you can see, Less comes all the way in the back line and just is going to pick up Crashies after they get the site. So that's just the first example of Less getting in and infiltrating in this game. And then through the next of the rest 5 rounds, Less doesn't really lurk. So when the team has gun advantage, Less doesn't lurk. So that's a big no-no for lurking. When you've got gun advantage, just don't do it. Don't give the enemy team a chance to catch you out in case your lurk goes wrong, and give them a gun which they can have a better chance of winning the round with. So they have gun advantage in round 2. In round 3, he sort of trails behind the team, plays more of a flank watch. Round 4, he gets picked off early, just being a little bit too aggressive. And then in round 5, they group again. But then so round 6, what we're going to jump to now is when it really starts to get interesting. It's now round 6. Optics just had to take a timeout. It's 4-1 in favor of Loud. And look at the setup that Loud has done. They've got 4 here, and then they've got Less here on his lonesome initiating this lurk. So as we're going to let this play out, you can see that Chambers got his ult. He's looking to get aggressive through mid, and the Sova dart comes out to clear tiles. And so Less just sits back, lets that scan, lets them think that they have this safe space. So Chamber can try and take this early angle. They don't give it to him. And then Less lurks right into this position straight after. And then Pancart actually smokes it. The jump peak comes out. Ye misses the shot, and then Less makes himself known. Now we skip forward a bit, and now Ye's coming back to re-aggress here. Loud's regrouped outside A, and look at Less. He's actually just forwarded his position in this sort of slight infiltration. It's not quite an infiltration, but it is very much an off angle. And he's looking right at Ye. ready for him to push out and get aggressive, try and make a play down mid, right as his teammates are trying to push into A. And he does get the timing, picks up Yay, and then what does he do? Instead of pushing down market, he regroups with his team. So he comes up through Cat to create this split. And now it's 4v1 and Crash just has to save. Coming into round 9 now, something that I want to note is that in round 7 and 8, Optic have sent a Fade Prowler out through B main and Les has shot it both rounds. So he's made himself known. Once now that they know that he's playing that lurk position around B lobby, tiles, now he's playing to let them know that he's there. And he's actually kind of creating a conditioning system to use against Optic and so all it does is that it forces them to respect the space outside of B. So as you can see, you're going to see that Prowler there again. He's going to switch up his turret placement this time. And the team here is going for a push across mid into tree, and they're going to go for an A split here. The Killjoy ult comes out, trying to bait some rotations, but Crash is there to destroy it. Maybe they just wanted to bait out, and they were just those ults are always going to get traded, I guess. So may as well use it where it might not accidentally pick up a kill. And then they go for this A split, but Ye's in a really strong position. So they end up going for this A split. Ye's in a really strong position where he gets one. He can't find the second and he's forced to TP out. And then he ends up getting the second there because Pancada misses his teleport. And then we have Les. Look at him just creeping into tree. So we're fighting on sites 3v3. Les gets himself up here. He gets crashes. He gets one and gets out. Again, getting one, getting out, not overstaying his welcome, regrouping with the team now that they've got advantage. And then they lock down this site. And now Yay with 10 health picks up his op, gets out and decides to save. We're going to come into round 11 now, where up until this point, Les has had the upper hand completely. And this is where Optic really make a play to try and force him out. So as you can see, we've got this 4-in-1 setup from Loud again. We're going to get the early Prowler from Finesse. There it is. It gets shot out by Les. And then what Optic are going to do, they're going to walk down mid. They're actually just leaving A. They're going to play retake on A because what they want to do is they want to deal with Les. They want to create an unknown on the map. Is holding this mid. They're expecting a bit of a mid push, or they're trying to punish Les crossing mid, whatever it is, I'm not sure, but they really want this mid control because that's how they've been losing rounds, is they've been rotated on through mid, lurked on through mid. And so they've actually dedicated 3 players to mid this round, and Les is playing very, very patiently. He's got no idea that they might be there, but then the Killjoy turret spots them. They double swing it. Les has a little bit of a bad shot. Probably should have got one and traded. And then just because of that, now Sassy has to react. And so he has to run all the way out here to check mid. He doesn't know if they could just be streaming up here to flank them. It'd be a 5v3 retake scenario. And that's that. I think if the half was longer, or if they played into this Les lurk earlier, we might have got to see more iterations of Les adapting to what Optic is trying to do. But we get to see this beautiful adaptation from Les here. So the first 11 rounds of the game, he's either grouped or his lurk has been amazingly successful or unneeded. And so he shoots out the Prowler, and then what he does, he gets out because they flushed him out. They found Optic found what they needed to do to adapt to Les. And so he adapts to them. And so right now you can see Yay pushing down mid, looking towards tiles. He knows that that's where Les is going to be. And all Yay's trying to do is he's just trying to get past Les or Les's utility kind of quickly. So he thinks he's gone. He's found the right timing, gotten past it quickly. But then Les is here for the adaptation. And you can see right as the trip goes off, Les is there to capitalize on it. Lovely, lovely play. Actually comes out to be massive in that round because Crash comes up huge with 3, but then Sassy's left to get 3 for himself. Sorry, Crashy's only got 2, but you can see that round kind of came down to being close. If Ye got a good lurk on there, that would have been a round in favor of Optic, I reckon. A very simple but masterful display of lurking from Les. There's nothing too crazy in a singular round where he walked into the back of the team and got 4 in the back of the head or anything like that. But it shows that just that pressure that Les applied and the way that he had impact frags in rounds. He's not getting kills at the end of rounds where the round's kind of over and he's just coming in to close it out, or you know, it's an unwinnable round and he's just getting 1 or 2. He's actually getting impact frags that are determining the outcome of the round. And that's what you should be aiming to do with your lurks, getting that map control, getting those impact frags which open up the map and capitalizing on that pressure that you can apply. So good luck with it in your ranked games. Good luck with it in hopefully the new tournament system, which is rumored to be coming out next act. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll see you there. Anyways, that's me. Have a good one. Bye. Get out. What are you still watching for? Piss off. Leave a like. Go comment something below. Subscribe. Do all that good shit. All right? Seriously, what are you still doing here? Leave!